this bad boy. So hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Sean.
And I'm Sean. Welcome to the Sean and Sean and the Great Outdoors Show. Thanks a bunch for tuning in with us today. We're really freaking pumped. Yeah, this week our challenge has to do with pets, which I know is everybody's favorite thing. So I'm really pumped to kind of see what kind of pet behavior videos y'all will be submitting, and we'll talk more about that later. But Sean, what did you end up doing this weekend? Anything fun?
My weekends, let's see. Saturday, I got to go to the pool. So my brother has a pool at his apartment complex, and it's open. And so it's open like for a max amount of people, allegedly, but there were definitely more than that max. But everyone was social distanced kind of at the pool. Like we all had our own little pockets. I know you've been to this pool, like it's a massive pool.
It's huge.
And so we all kind of like segmented off in our little pockets of the pool. And we're just like out there chilling, getting some sun, which was nice to just lay out in the sun, get a little bit of a tan at least, as we go into the summer. What'd you do?
Yeah, it was a beautiful weekend this weekend in terms of weather. We ended up kind of hanging out in my front yard, and my roommates found a tire that was going to be an art project, and it ended up just being too big for what the game plan was. So it's been chilling in our carport, and we were hanging out, getting some sun as well. And like, we should make a tire swing. So we got a bunch of our old, just retired climbing rope and whatnot that was laying around, and this thing was giant. Like we were able to get it up in the tree, and I think we fit 4 of us on it, and it was rocking and rolling like no problem. So that was actually a lot of fun. I definitely, on one of the swings, I think bounced and hit the rope with my face. So now I have this sweet little guy right there to remind me of how much fun the weekend was. But yeah, we've been having some good weather up here. Very thankful for that.
Yeah, it's been really nice to have good weather up here. Definitely like makes the weekend that much more fun. Just get out. So
big time. And yeah, so this last week, we had our Backcountry Cook-Off was our weekly challenge. And Tatum, do you want to go ahead and share your screen and show our finalists with that? We had Tatum on with us today.
Hello.
Jason had today off, so Tatum is one of our student directors in charge of our marketing. So all of the phenomenal Instagram stuff you see is likely her doing. Yeah, so for the first one, we had our maple trail mix, and this was actually one of yours, Sean, right?
Yeah, this was my maple trail mix.
What was some of the things in this recipe?
So it's pretty much just any of your favorite nuts. I love cashews. I put pecans, almonds, and I put sunflower seeds in there. And then I also put some like coconut strips. And from there, like I just put some maple syrup on it. It was really good. Roasted it up.
Solid.
Yeah.
And what was our next one, Tatum?
The next one.
Go for it.
Okay. The next one was Backcountry Poutine. She had like a mix of different potatoes, green onions, cheese. It was really good. She had gravy too. So.
Oh yeah, and this is our famous Miss Kelly Gerbers, who's out in Utah right now, but one of our FSU alumni and just ultimate beast. What was our next one, Tatum?
The next one was fire roasted corn and veggies. And then she also said that black bean burgers were there but not pictured.
Ooh.
Nice.
Solid.
And the last one.
This one was yours, Sean, right?
It was. This was my my backcountry chicken and veggie mashed potato. And pretty much used canned chicken and sauteed that up, and then some rehydrated vegetables, and threw it all together in some mashed potato mix. So it turned out pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. And our winner, Tatum, who was our winner for this week?
Our winner was the Backcountry Poutine for Miss Kelly Gerber.
Yay!
Yeah.
Whoop, whoop.
Go Kelly, mad props. Good deal. So Kelly, congratulations. You're gonna be winning our Campus Rec buff in pint glass. I'm sure you'll be able to utilize that out there. And so that was last week's challenge. Before we hop to this week's, Sean, what seltzer are we drinking today?
Yep. So this week's seltzer, we are doing another AHA. I think it's our third week in a row doing an AHA. But I kind of like them so far. And this is the blueberry pomegranate flavor. And Sean, I'll say I actually haven't even tasted this yet. So this is blind taste test for me here.
Same boat. I think you can tell what has been on sale at the grocery store lately in terms of seltzer waters was AHA. I like this one.
I do too. I will say, honestly, blueberry pomegranate of all the AHA flavors makes the most sense to pair.
Yeah,
So
I would agree.
I'm quite a fan of this one, actually.
It's not too sweet too. I feel like with blueberry, it can be really, really sweet, but it's not bad at all.
Yeah, a lot of times with blueberry, you get that artificial blueberry sweetness, but
It's like
this one's very
kind of.
Yeah, this one's good. I like this.
Me too. I'd say.
What would you rate it, Sean?
Solid 4 out of 5, I think.
4 out of 5? I think I give it a 4 out of 5 as well.
Well, yeah, blueberry pomegranate. Thumbs up on that one.
Good stuff.
Oh yeah.
Good stuff.
Well, good deal. Well, so Sean, do you want to start us off with what this week's challenge is?
Yeah. So this week we're talking a little bit about obviously the challenge is pet tricks. So we want to see y'all's pet tricks this week. And again, tag our Instagram page Outdoors at FSU or Outdoors FSU, and then use the hashtag FSU Outdoor Challenge. But on the show this week, we want to talk a little bit about adventuring with pets. And I kind of wanted to start off just with like my own personal stories of taking a pet that wasn't actually mine outdoors. First of all, I kind of want to preface, it's awesome. Like taking your dog out into the backcountry or into the front country, even and going camping with your dog is a great way to like socialize them and get them outdoors, and they will love it. And also like makes it a lot of fun for you as well. However, I will say that not all places are the same in terms of their regulations and rules when you go out with your pups and go camping with your animals and your pets. So I will say definitely before you decide to go and want to take that spontaneous camping trip, take your spontaneous camping trip, but do like 30 minutes of research just to see if that campsite or whatever area you plan to recreate on does allow pets, because not all public lands are the same, and so a lot of them are managed by different organizations, different federal agencies, state agencies, and you want to be sure that you know that a pet is allowed. And so my story has to do a little bit with this. I did that, so I took a dog. I personally don't have a pet myself, but I've done a lot of pet sitting, especially when I was out in Colorado. A lot of my friends had pups, and so I did a bunch of pup sitting, which was awesome. I loved it. And so sometimes I would take my buddy's dog, Jazz, what's his name, and we'd go out and go camping and that sort of thing, just because it was fun. It was the summer, and we would go play. And so I went to this campsite that was like forest land, Forest Service land, and I had checked like regulations and made sure that that pup was allowed to be there and that animals were welcome in this area. I also did a little bit of research to see, and I'd been to this campsite before to see whether or not a lot of people were around usually at this campsite. And it turned out to be, it was very secluded, and not a lot of people went there. So I thought it would be a good time to take a dog that I didn't really know that well, or as well as I would my own pet there, just in case, if there were, if there ended up being other people, whether we could like move further away from their site. So went there, and there another person did show up, but we were like, I would say a solid like 150 yards away from them. So we were kind of spread out in terms of campsite. But something that I learned when taking Jazz camping was that dog was super, super skittish at night. And so the poor thing, we were like he had a blast of a day, but as we were settling down to get to bed, he was going to sleep in the tent with us. The poor guy was very antsy, and every single like bump in the night definitely like woke him up and made him anxious. So that was kind of my weird story of taking a dog I didn't really know well out in the backcountry, or not the really backcountry, just like the front country to go camping. It ended up being kind of a restless night for all of us because we were trying to like quiet Jazz down and make sure that he was comfortable, and like, Jazz, it's okay, it's just a squirrel or whatever it was out, so that's my story. I would definitely do it again with a dog, but the most recent time that I've taken a pup out to go camping, it was not what I had hoped for.
Yeah, I think practice trips like that are so important, especially if you're planning on doing a big one, even hiking or paddling, especially. I remember we actually, Brandon, who I think is on today, we were going paddling and we brought his dog Georgia with us. And crud, I think their screen may have frozen up a little bit, but we luckily practiced out in a lake close to the house, and we realized that Georgia did not really like to stay in the boat very much. Brandon, do you want to tell us a little bit? You got Georgia actually right there. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how that went?
Yeah, it went pretty terrible. We never introduced her to water before that day, or kayaks or outdoor activities really, and she was about 5 months old at that time. So we weren't really sure if she could swim or if she liked water, which is I would not suggest that. But we got about 50 feet from the shore before she decided she wanted to explore the kayak and fell in.
And then I had to pick her back up and put her back in the kayak with me in January and paddle back up to the house.
It was so cold that day. That water was freezing too. So yeah,
we can't keep her out of the water. So there's that.
There you go. Baby steps to it. So we'll be ready for a long dog paddling trip soon. Now that she's more used to it. For sure. But yeah, so definitely do some shorter practice hikes and stuff with your animals. And actually, I think we have a poll, if I'm not mistaken. Tatum, do you want to go ahead and launch our poll? We want to know of y'all, have you taken a pet on a camping trip before and whatnot? So Tatum's going to launch that. And as you got that on your screen and are filling that out, I want to talk a little bit about some additional tips and tricks when bringing your animal on a hike. So the first thing, and Sean mentioned it a little bit, is knowing how your animal is going to react, and even if you do know, obeying all the leash laws. A lot of times, even if your dog is super adorable and you love it to death, there might be other people on the trail that are a little bit more skittish about animals, and it's important not to ruin their experience too by maybe having a dog run up on them and whatnot. As well as there's tons of animals out there. You don't want your animal to go chasing another one and maybe even catch it. Like, that would be pretty awful. I guess unless you were hunting and that was the goal anyway. But so definitely obeying the leash laws, and then picking up after your pet is the next one. If your pet goes to the bathroom on the trail, definitely bag it up and hike it out. You don't want to. No one likes hiking and stepping in dog poop on the trail. That's just no bueno. And then the next one is bringing enough water. So you're going to need obviously enough water for you, but you're also going to need water for the pet. If you're hiking a lot and you're going far, I know some places were even saying keeping electrolytes and whatnot in mind, possibly like utilizing like Pedialyte and stuff like that. So definitely keeping hydration in mind for both you and the animal. The next thing is make sure your animal is fit for the trail. If you have a small animal or one that's not used to walking a lot, it's probably not a good idea to start with like a 10-mile overnight trail. That would be really, really rough. And then of course we've got pet first aid. So you may have your first aid kit that you bring when hiking. Keep in mind that there might be some other things that your animal may need to put in that first aid as well. And then dog clothing. is important depending on where you're going. Let's be real, a lot of dog clothing looks very ridiculous and silly, but it's very important, especially if it's cold and you know that your dog needs a coat. If you're paddling or doing anything in moving water, I would highly recommend a dog PFD. Actually, I've got a pretty phenomenal one that I found that I want to show you. So there's some very fun dog PFDs. This one actually has a shark fin, which just super amused me. But the long and the short of it is, even if your dog can swim, it could get tired. And if it can't get out of the water quickly, that's not going to be good. And if you're in moving water, you 100% want to make sure it has that on there, because if it can't make it to the bank, you number one have that little strap that you can grab onto and pull it back in the boat, and it'll keep it above water until you can eventually get back to it. One of the other neat things that they make is, hold on, my screen's being goofy right now. Sorry about that. Is dog backpacks. So if you're going on a long hike and you're worried about bringing enough food and water, I think the coolest dog that I ever saw hiking, it was hiking with us down in South Florida, and this dog in one of the saddlebags had all of its food and water, and in its other saddlebag, I think it had a 4-pack of PBR, and that just super amused me that's what the dog's hiking essentials were. But definitely making sure that the animal's prepared and has all the stuff that it needs. And then the last thing is keeping in mind what the animal can get into out there. Afterwards, do a good check of the animal, making sure that it didn't cut itself. And especially here in the Southeast, we've got ticks. You need to make sure that the dog does not have ticks on it, and if so, remove them and any other bugs, because just like us, you don't want your dog to get some kind of nasty infection or disease from these animals. But cool. And Tatum, do we have the results for the poll that we launched?
Yes. So 71% said they have or do plan to take their pet on an outdoor adventure, and then 29% said they didn't or don't.
Cool. Well, good deal. I think maybe we'll get maybe some more info about what those adventures were in a little bit. But I want to make sure that we have a special guest with us today. One of my buddies, Mr. Luke, who is actually a professional animal trainer. He's going to talk to us a little bit about what the steps are in terms of how to train an animal. And Luke, how long have you been working in the animal training world? I forget.
Hey guys, I've been professionally training animals for about 10 years now. So not quite, but 9.5, almost 10 years. So I've worked with orcas, beluga whales, Pacific white-sided dolphins, some smaller terrestrial animals, some macaws, coatimundis, African crested porcupines, sea lions, otters, all sorts of different species.
That's awesome. What's been one of your favorites, Luke?
Beluga whales. They're just like the giant marshmallows of the sea, as you and Lizzie can attest to. I think y'all came out and met my favorite beluga whale.
We did. It was absolutely phenomenal. And yeah, their head is just like the squishiest thing in the world. They are pretty dang cool.
Yeah, no, they're definitely an amazing species. And they are no harder to train than your average pet, especially for hiking. One of the main things that you want to make sure that your animal has the ability to do is probably have a really strong recall. And all that means that if your dog or pet gets away from you, that they know to come back to you. And it's a pretty simple behavior to train. Most of your dogs understand and know their name. They're just going to ignore it in certain situations when other things could be more exciting, like a hiker coming up the trail or whatever wild animal they might find out there. So it's important to practice that behavior in all sorts of different environments and scenarios. So, you know, like if the pizza delivery guy comes to the door, your dog's obviously going to run to the door. You can use it then. Whenever you're training any animal, one of the most important things that you can do is make sure that you know what that animal finds reinforcing. So for lots of dogs, it's going to be food. Lots of animals, it's going to be food. But that's not necessarily the only trick you have in the book. Lots and lots of dogs find toys reinforcing. The Air Force actually uses tennis balls to train their dogs, that they train to do all sorts of crazy stuff. So they just have a really strong fetch and retrieve drive. You can also use love, tactile, petting your dog. I mean, most dogs out there love from their owners. So you can use that as a thing to reinforce your animal for coming back and doing the behavior that you ask. Really, whenever you're training any animal, that reinforcement value is what you're going to want to pay attention to have a good, loving relationship with that animal. Most, if not all of the training that I do, we're going to focus on positive reinforcement. So bringing lots and lots of attention to the behaviors that an animal does correctly and less attention to the behaviors that an animal does incorrectly.
Very cool. And Luke, if I remember,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. What were you going to say, Sean?
If I remember correctly from some of the stuff I remember you telling me about, you mentioned a least reinforcing scenario was a term that you could utilize?
Yes.
What was that all about?
So a lot of times with marine mammals and exotics especially, when an animal does a behavior that's not exactly what you want, you're going to use a least reinforcing scenario. So, or an LRS as we call it for short. And that just means for 3 seconds, you're going to do nothing, and then you're going to move on to another behavior. Over time, that LRS becomes kind of a behavior in itself. So you can reinforce your animal for coming back from doing the wrong behavior or failing at that behavior with a positive attitude and reinforce them for not doing the wrong thing. Lots of times when you're working with really big, powerful animals, you want to make sure that failing at that behavior is not adversive, that they don't find that something that's going to send them spinning out of control and, take out that frustration on another animal or part of their environment. So you want to make sure that even when they fail, that they're still having fun, that the session is still reinforcing. So the tool we're going to use to do that is an LRS, or that least reinforcing scenario.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And it's very funny because I've definitely realized that a lot of these kind of ideas and stuff that y'all use to train the animals, it's a lot of it's just based on psychology. That
it is, yeah.
Yeah, and it works very well on campers as well. I've learned.
It does. You can use positive reinforcement to reinforce anything that has any sort of drive. So, yeah, food drive. It's real easy to use positive reinforcement on people. So, but it's all about the immediacy of the reinforcement as well. So, if that's one of the problems people say with like our jobs, we work for 2 weeks and then we finally get paid. How reinforcing is it? Except if, you finish a job and get $20 at the end of it, it's a lot more reinforcing because of the immediacy of that reinforcement. So same with, training people. You want to make sure that if someone does what they want or what you are asking them to do, that you get that reinforcement to them fast to draw attention to the specific behavior that you're trying to reinforce.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
Well, good. We want to leave a little bit of time today to, if any of y'all have stories on how you brought your animals out into while camping or doing the outdoors, or have any questions for Sean, myself, or especially Luke, since we got him here, feel free to hop off mute or put it in the text box and Tatum will read it out.
Sure. I got a story. I've never taken my dog up, but my grandpa has taken my dog for a walk on the trail before. One day, he was walking him around, and then he ran off. The dog ran off, and my grandpa spent the whole time looking for him, but it turned out he was just in a field chasing bugs the whole time in a place that he forgot to look.
Yeah.
That's great. Those animals like to go out there and chase bugs, I guess, just as much as the rest of us. Awesome. Thanks a bunch, Matt.
Something that I've been hearing just conversations about lately, and I was just curious if anyone had any examples or stories of their own, is about pets and invasive species, like bringing in plants or bugs like on their fur or in other ways to different environments. Like I've heard about it out west. So just something else to consider with your pet when you're going from different places as well.
Most
Yeah,
definitely, Ryan.
and especially with tick population. So if you go camping with your dog somewhere where they have any of those ticks that carry those zoonotic diseases, and then you bring those ticks back, they fall off, complete their life cycle in a whole new environment, and you can spread an invasive species that possibly has very ill repercussions to people in a whole new region.
For sure. I think that goes back to the importance of doing that like check afterwards with the animal, and could even include like washing the animal at the location. I know they have a lot of like dog portable bathing things, and I think a lot of that is being designed for that reason, as well as I guess having the animal jump into your truck for the ride home. That's all disgusting and muddy and gross.
Maybe even checking before too, especially I'm sure you probably heard about that, like with wilderness areas. There's wilderness characteristics that talk about invasive species. They get points in that sense, and it's quite possible your dog might be carrying a seed or something in their fur, and it could drop it as it goes. So before and after checking, definitely be sure you know what's on your animal.
Yeah, because you can bring stuff in as easily as you can take it out.
Yep.
Oh, I would say another one, don't have complete 100% proof on this, but dog's fur protects them a lot, and it protects them from the oils of poison ivy, but it does transfer on their fur. So if you are walking through thick brush and things like that, when you get home, making sure you're careful of if you need to wash them or something, because it can create a new contact to you, and you could have a reaction from poison ivy outside of the woods versus the dog having one.
Yeah.
What about you, Bailey? Have you had any experience bringing your pup out?
Yeah. At this point, Potato goes with me everywhere. So out on the lake out here, she just kind of runs all over property. We've been camping a couple times, but not since I've been here. She was not great the first time around, very similar to, I don't know who was talking about. Sean, you were talking about Jazz. You're like, what? That's my dog daily. But once she figured out like what was happening in that, like I wasn't leaving the tent, she chilled out. So she's a really good little buddy. She's passed out. I keep looking at her right here. So she went and ran with me this morning. Yeah, I have a backpack for her. That backpack is actually like super helpful. She's got her own little like life jacket. She gets scared of the water sometimes when she's on a paddleboard, so she abandons ship real quick, but does well in a canoe.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's what we were actually thinking. I know, Brandon, we had talked about the idea of maybe utilizing a canoe instead of a kayak for the dog, just because it does have the bigger sides. It's less intimidating. They can kind of even move around a little bit. So that could even be good, like baby steps if you do want to get it onto a paddle board at one point, kind of starting off with a larger vessel and then moving to a kayak and then moving to a paddle board. For sure.
Look at you talking like a trainer, successfully approximating your dog onto the behavior you want. So taking baby steps and building that behavior up.
There you go. What were you saying, Brandon?
We tried a canoe about 2 weeks ago or a week ago or so. She loved it. Wouldn't stop exploring the whole canoe. We thought we were going to flip every other minute because all she wanted to do was just lick the water. She's like, what is this? This is the same water. So she loves a canoe. She loves boats. She goes just about everywhere we go whenever we can, but haven't tried a kayak yet. Might upgrade to that next, but yeah.
Good deal. Well, I know Sean and I are super pumped to see all these pet tricks and just pictures of them being outside with y'all. So, I mean, who doesn't like seeing little furry things outside? And non-furry things. I will say, anyone out there like with some cool reptiles? I've definitely seen some iguanas on leashes and snakes, and those things are phenomenal as well. I love me some reptiles. So I don't all have to have fur. Cool. Well, another announcement that Sean and I wanted to let you know, we recently we're kind of chatting about the show and everything, and I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of take a little break for the summertime, and then probably come back to doing the weekly Sean and Sean in the Great Outdoors show a little bit later in the summer. So we're gonna try to figure out some other cool stuff to be showing y'all in that kind of break time. And some ideas we're toying with is possibly going around the Tallahassee area and showing you some of the cool things that we have right in our backyard. So if there's any specific places that you haven't explored yet or think would be worth checking out, definitely shoot us a message on our Instagram, and we'll do it about that if you send us a cool idea in. But we wanted to let you all know ahead of time that we're going to continue doing the pet challenge and announce the winners on Instagram next week. But we're going to be taking a small break from the Sean and Sean show for just a little bit. Good deal. And Matt wrote, will the Zoom number be the same during the break? I think I don't think it's going to actually be a Zoom show. I think it'll actually be videos that Instagram will probably be the best place to find the location of them. We're trying to figure out whether we're going to be putting them on Instagram TV or YouTube and whatnot. It's kind of just going to depend on what format will hold it better. But definitely Outdoors FSU, keep an eye on that, and we'll be sure to have all that information on it.
We've got a Facebook page that's starting to form together as well. I think it's maybe FSU Outdoors is our Facebook page. Is that correct?
Well, we got Tatum. Tatum runs that page, right? Tatum, what's the Facebook page looking like?
Yeah, the Facebook is basically, if you just search FSU Outdoor Recreation, it will pop up, and that is in the chat. Yeah.
Good deal. Thanks, Tatum.
Sweet, thank you.
And Matt, to answer your question about the live show being at the same time when we do pick it back up, we're not 100% on that. It will likely be the same time, but we'll definitely make sure we pass along those details in the social media and probably on our website.
Yep. Cool.
But thank you all again for tuning in today. We thoroughly enjoyed it. I want to give Luke some more mad props for coming on today and sharing the info about animal training with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, thank you all for having me. I enjoyed talking about it.
Good deal. Well, until next time, I'm Sean.
And I'm Sean. Thanks for tuning in to Sean in the Great Outdoors, and yeah, we'll see you guys after the break. Keep an eye out on our Instagram and Facebook. See you guys.
Bye, everybody.